Hello guys, I'm back. Today I will share with you three main aspects related to reflux ratio on distillation column to your work as a real chemical process engineer. Not only that, once this video reaches 100 likes, I will share with you my presentation and also the process simulation file used in this video. My name is Jefferson Costa and I teach you how to work with chemical process engineering and plant design. To tell you about reflux ratio on distillation column, first I need that you understand how is the operation of a distillation column. So here we have a process flow diagram very similar to those ones used by chemical process engineers to perform heating material balance in plant design. So you can see the distillation column that is divided in two sections. The first section above the feed is the heat fine section. The main objective of this section is to remove the heavier components from the gas or from the vapor in this case. And we have the stripping section that is below the feed, and this section here, the main purpose is to remove the lighter components from the condensate or from the liquid. So in this case, in the bottom of the column, I have a liquid product or bottom product, and in the top of the column I have the distillate that can be withdrawn as liquid or sometimes can be withdrawn as vapor also. For adding the heat needed to do the boiling of the mixture and have the distillation, I use the equipment called reboiler, and the source of energy can be different. Source of energy can be steam, medium pressure, high pressure steam, or can be another kind of energy. And to condensate my vapor that goes out from my distillation column, I have a condenser, and the main purpose of the condenser is to liquefy most of the gas that is going out from the column. When you are performing the heating material balance in process simulation softwares, you will use an object like a column, that is a distillation column in this case. And in this case, I have the condenser and also the reboiler, and I need to set the strings to the inlet, that is my feed, and also set the strings for the outlet and the specification of the column in order that I achieve the desired heat and material balance, or the product specification of my product or in my bottoms. Keep with me that I will show more about Aspen High Seas on this video. Now that you know how a distillation column operates, what is a reflux ratio, or what is the reflux ratio? The reflux ratio, in simple terms, is the amount of flow that returns to the column divided by the amount of flow that is retrieved or withdrawn from the column. This number can be above 1 or below 1, but there are some restrictions related to the operation of the column that is easier to be understood if we go to the distillation graph. Here we have a typical distillation graph used by chemical process engineers in plant design to perform the heating material balance of a column. And before talking about it in more details, let me remind you about some definitions related to reflux ratio. We have seen that the reflux ratio, the operating reflux ratio, is the relationship between the liquid that returns to the column divided by the product that is withdrawn from the column. But we have also the total reflux ratio, that is a theoretical number considering that any liquid is withdrawn from the column or from the process. In this case, all the liquid is condensated and returned to the column in a way that product is not produced, and if we don't produce product, we will not have operations, and without operations, we don't have design and etc. And we have the minimum reflux ratio, that is the reflux ratio needed to achieve the separation of the fluids in the process. So all of this information, the operating ratio, the total reflux ratio, and the minimal reflux ratio, can be seen in this graph here. So here we have the composition of the fluid that is feeding the column. We have a blue line here that represents the operating line, and the angle for this line depends on if the feed is saturated liquid, saturated vapor, if it is two-phase flow, superheated or subcooled. We have here the desired conditions in the bottom and the desired condition in the top. We have here the stripping line of the column, that is the line below the feed. So here we have the stripping line, and at the top or above the feed we have the rectifying line. We already talked about that. And we have here the vapor liquid equilibrium line. This is our limitation for defining the minimum reflux ratio. Why it's so important to understand that? The operating reflux ratio can be any value between the total reflux ratio and the minimum reflux ratio required to achieve the distillation. So in this case here, based on the desired product that I want to, and based on the composition of my feed stream, I have defined these operating lines, and I have this number of stages here that will represent the equilibrium number of stages of my column. If I change the reflux ratio, or in other words, if I increase the reflux ratio, it means that I am going near to the total reflux ratio line. That is the strip line here in this graph. If I reduce the reflux ratio, it means that I'm going the direction of the equilibrium line. And what is the impact of this? So if we see that we have a higher reflux ratio, so I am increasing the reflux ratio, I am going near to the total reflux ratio line, and my number of stages of equilibrium decreases because now I have more space to do the horizontal and vertical lines here in my graph if I use the Macbeth-TL method. So you can see here that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stages of equilibrium. When I increase the reflux ratio, now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I decrease the number of stages of equilibrium, and in this case I am reducing the age of my column, and we'll talk more about that in the sequence. If in the opposite I reduce the reflux ratio, the operating reflux ratio, now I am approaching the equilibrium line, and because of that I have more stages of equilibrium. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So you can see that my column will be taller, and because of that I will have some impact in the plane design. But here I want you to understand how important to know how to read and how to define the reflux ratio, the operating reflux ratio for your process. So in general, a rule of thumb that is used in the industry is that based on the minimum required reflux ratio, we multiply this value between 1.1 and 1.5 depending on the process that you are dealing with to get the operating reflux ratio. You can see the effect of the reflux ratio in the process simulation software like the Aspen HiSys, for instance. So you can see here that based on my configuration, the settings related to my feed and the product that I desire to achieve, the Aspen HiSys calculated the minimum reflux ratio required to achieve this condition. And now I will add, or I will inform, what is the external reflux ratio, that is, in other words, the operating reflux ratio. So if I multiply, for instance, this value here by 1.5, I will have around 2.1. and when I click on enter, the Aspen HiSys did the conversion. And if I go to performance, I can see that the actual number of trays is 12.2. That is rounded up to 13. So if I am doing the chemical process engineering plan design, instead of defining my column as 12.2, I will define it as 13. So you can see here that is my the number of actual column trays based on the current reflux ratio. And the minimum trays that I can have is 6.4 based on the maximum reflux ratio. So if I return to design and now instead of using 2.1, I use for instance 1.5. It's above the minimum reflux ratio, but very near. So when I click on enter and I return to the performance tab, now instead of the 13, I have 20 degrees or 20 number of trays. So you can see that the number of trays increases when I decrease the reflux ratio. And now let's do a final test here. Instead of 2.1, let's suppose that I will use 10 reflux ratio. If I return to performance, now I have 7.2 and I am approaching the minimum number of trays, meaning that I am reaching the value corresponding to the total reflux ratio. And of course that, as I told you, we can, to perform the convergence of our process, we cannot operate below the minimum reflux ratio required. So if instead of I use a number above the minimum reflux ratio, I set my column, for instance, as 1.4 and I click on enter, the HiSys will return to me a message, a warning, telling that the external reflux ratio must be greater than minimum reflux ratio, and in this case it will not convert, you will be stuck in this way. So I need to find a value that is above the minimum reflux ratio. Now let me share with you why it's so important the definition of the operating reflux ratio for the mechanical design of the column. But before doing that, let me know in the comments what are your comments and feedbacks related to this class. It's very important to me to know if it's worth or not in order that I can improve the content available on this YouTube channel. So we have seen that there is a relationship between the number of theoretical trays in a column and the reflux ratio defined, and there are some limits for the minimum and for the maximum of these variables. And why this is so important? This is so important because there are two costs associated for a project. A project will be only approved if the boards understand that it's feasible in terms of profits, and the profits or the costs associated with the project depends on the operating costs and the fixed costs. That is the CAPEX or capital costs. So what happens when we start from the minimum reflux ratio? The minimum reflux ratio, we have seen that we increase infinitely the number of stages, meaning that if I try to build a column for this condition, I will have a higher CAPEX. Once I increase the reflux ratio of my process, I decrease the number of stages, and because of that I have a smaller column. So with a smaller column I have less CAPEX, so I am decreasing the amount of money required to build or to buy and install the equipment. So because of that my fixed cost decreases. On the other hand, I need more energy to heating up my fluids in the bottom because now I have more condensate returning to the column, so I need more energy. And to condensate more, I need more energy in the condenser. So I need more energy in the reboiler to vaporize the fluids, and I need more energy in the condenser to condensate the fluids. And because of that, my operating cost increases. So doing a combination of both curves, I have what is called as the optimum reflux ratio. So the shape of my curve is in total cost is like this one, and the minimal point is related to the optimum reflux ratio. In plane design, when we are performing plane design, we usually during the design phase, basic engineering, detail engineering, we don't do the associated combination because there is no time for that to get the price of the market and adjust our plane design. So what the companies does is have some indicators or some index or some factors that is used to be considered by the chemical process engineer. So I can see that from the reflux ratio, the minimum reflux ratio, if I multiply by a factor, I can approach the optimum reflux ratio. So this is why it's so important the definition of the reflux ratio for the mechanical design and for the approval of the project. If you need more information related to the cost estimation, you can take a look in the video that will appear here, where I cover the main aspects related to cost estimation for a chemical process engineer. And if you need a detailed training to learn how to use Aspen High Seas applied to plane design, you can verify the link in the description of this video.